Hello, great people. If you've been hearing about corruption, but you don't know how deep it has eaten into the Nigerian political system, if you are hearing about corruption in high places, but you don't have a perfect example of it, well, I bring you the case of Abigail Katung, the wife of Senator Katung, the senator representing Kaduna South in the Nigerian Senate. Abigail Katung risks forfeiting a property in the United Kingdom that is worth £1 million. Now, for clarity, £1 million is about 2,180,000,000 in Nigerian naira. In a moment, I'll be reading you the report of the case. Then, after reading it for you, we'll be dissecting the associated issues as regards making a comparative analysis between the UK accountability system and the Nigerian corrupt system. Then we'll also be looking at the future of the average Nigerian if the usual corruption trend in Nigeria continues. We'll be looking at the practices of Nigerian politicians as regards public treasury, and we'll be looking at the accountability rating and a whole lot more on this episode with your show plug, Dr. Moshola. First, before I read you the report of the case as it transpired in the UK, let me give you some background. Now, Abigail Katung is the Lord Mayor of Leeds. Abigail Katung traveled to the United Kingdom in the year 2000 for a postgraduate program, and ever since then she has been in the United Kingdom, and she's the current Lord Mayor of Leeds. Now, she is the wife of Sunday Katung, the senator representing Kaduna South, and the case of the property was handled at the UK High Court of Justice at King's Bench Division. Now, let us go to the report of what transpired in the case, and I'll be reading it out for you. Now, don't miss any part of this video, else you'll be losing a lot. Now, I start the reading. The UK High Court of Justice at King's Bench Division has granted a forfeiture order on a property occupied by the Lord Mayor of Leeds. The court ordered that the UK's National Crime Agency, NCA, to take possession and recover the property, which was originally owned by a wealthy businessman, Mansur Hussain. Investigators have previously accused him, that's the Mansur Hussain, of being a money launderer for major crime lords in the north of England. Let me explain that to you. The property that was bought by Abigail Katung was reportedly owned by this Mansur Hussain. Mansur Hussain has criminal records in the United Kingdom that is a money launderer for the crime lords in the UK. But Abigail Katung innocently bought that house from him. But then the house that she bought is also a proceed of money laundering. So she bought it with the proceeds of money laundering as determined by the UK court. Now let's continue the reading. Mrs. Katung, the wife of Sunday Katung, Nigerian senator representing Kaduna South Senatorial District, currently occupies the property with her 2 children. She had signed a contract of sale agreement in 2015, the year her husband was first elected to the House of Representatives to buy the property from Mr. Hussain at an agreed price of £1 million. Now, you heard that. She signed the agreement in 2015. That was the Buhari period. Apparently, the husband was one of those that benefited from the Buhari mantra at that point in time. So he was elected as an House of Rep member, and the man has advanced in his political career. Now he is a senator. Now let's continue the reading. As part of the deal, Mrs. Katung made a deposit of £400,000 in 2 tranches, 40,000 in the first and 360,000 in the second, which were paid to Mr. Hussain's bank account. UK court filings obtained by Premium Times suggests money laundering activities in Mrs. Katung's initial deposit, which was made between April and May 2015, several days after her husband's election and days before his June inauguration as a lawmaker. The UK High Court investigated the source of £360,000 originating from Nigeria, with Mrs. Katung explaining that due to the new government policies in 2015, she used the black market, listen attentively, great people, she used the black market to transfer funds from Nigeria to England. She said some of the funds were sourced by her husband. However, there are questions regarding the transfer process, and Mrs. Katung did not disclose documentation to prove that the transaction was lawful. In an oral interview, she told the court that her husband obtained a loan of 120 million from a Nigerian bank and then used the Bureau de Change Operator BDCs in Nigeria to exchange naira into pound sterling and remit it into a Barclays account in the name of First Resource, a company owned by Mrs. Katung. Mrs. Katung sent the court extract from bank statement purportedly showing transfers her husband made to bureau de change operators in Nigeria, who then used agents in the UK to get the money to her via the company's account of First Resource. The judge held, that's the UK judge, the judge held that the use of Mrs. Katung's company for the purpose of that transaction was improper. But the mayoress of Leeds maintained that she did that because it was easier to transfer money from a company account than a personal account. So I need to explain something. So you use your company account to make the payment, despite the fact that it is illegal. But because it is convenient for you and it is easier, so those are the signs of money laundering and cover up. Now let us continue the reading. Now the court also found that majority of payments made into the bank account of First Resource could not have been from UK agents or BDCs in Nigeria. Mrs. Katung told the court that in addition to the agents, she relied to a limited extent on family and friends to assist her with currency exchanges and make the payments. Not satisfied with Mrs. Katung's oral explanation and that of her lawyer, the judge said, take note of this, the judge said she should prepare her defense and provide an adequate documented explanation of what happened in 2015. She failed to do that, the judge said. Again, let me read that to you again. Not satisfied with Mrs. Katung's oral explanation of that and that of her lawyer, the judge says she should prepare her defense and provide an adequate documented explanation of what happened in 2015. She has failed to do that, the judge said. Adding, it was incumbent on her to take proactive steps to ensure that a properly evidenced account was given to the UK court. Surprisingly, Mrs. Katung witness statement in these proceedings did not address how the payments were made, nor did they seek to explain what she did at interview. More surprisingly, Mrs. Katung had disclosed very little documentation which bears on these transfers, and there is no witness statement from her husband, that is the Senator Sunday Katung, that wired the money to her in the UK. Now, according to the report, these are telling omissions from which I draw adverse inference, the judge said. At the hearing, Mrs. Katung sought to rely on attestation from one Mubarak Suleiman of My Honeywell Interbiz Limited, which purports to prove that her husband was a client of Honey Oil and a licensed bureau de change in Nigeria. However, using open source research, investigations said the Central Bank of Nigeria's list of licensed bureau de change as of June 2021 shows no trace of Honey Oil. Therefore, the judge ruled that Mrs. Katung was only conducting a business in foreign exchange transactions to circumvent Nigerian foreign exchange regulations and not to avoid a punitive exchange rate. The judge said that he was satisfied on the balance, in quote, of probabilities that some of the BDCs mentioned by Mrs. Katung were not even licensed to undertake foreign exchange transactions in Nigeria. Now, before I continue the reading, when you hear that the UK court jail Nigerians, the UK court jail high-profile Nigerians, if you don't read the story, if you don't know what transpired, you will think that, oh, the UK system is against Nigerian politicians, or the UK system is just trying to kind of like retrench Nigerians. But from what I'm reading, you can see the flaws of Mrs. Abigail Katung, the wife of Senator Sunday Katung. You can see it, boldly written. Now, let us continue the reading. I reach my conclusion, that is the judge now. I reach my conclusions on the basis of 1. Paragraph 72 of Mrs. Cole's 8th witness statement. 2. The adverse interferences to be drawn from the Honey Oil material. And 3. The adverse interferences to be drawn from Mrs. Katung's failure to file a witness statement from her husband and to disclose relevant documentation, the judge said. The NCA contends that the entire property, including the deposit made by Mrs. Katung, represented money obtained by criminal conduct. Hence, the property was recoverable. The property was recoverable property under the UK Proceeds of Crime Act 2002. In his judgment, delivered on 6 June, Justice J ruled that the property and its possession should be recovered by the NCA. That's in the UK. The judge noted that the civil recovery order, which has already been made in the NCA's favor under Section 266 of POCA, should be treated as vesting the entirety of the property in the trustee, and that no credit fails to be given for the value of the deposits made by Mrs. Katung. Mrs. Katung's lawyer considered that with this conclusion, his client's sum in question would have to be treated as recoverable property, in quote, for the purposes of the POCA regime. However, the judge shielded Mrs. Katung from having any knowledge of Mr. Hussein's criminal activities. You know, I said it earlier that Mrs. Abigail Katung, the wife of Senator Sunday Katung, bought the property innocently, but she bought it from an alleged criminal, Mr. Hussein, in the United Kingdom. Now, let's continue the reading. Understandably, Mrs. Katung is concerned about the impact that this judgment may have upon her reputation, and that is according to the judge now. Understandably, Mrs. Katung is concerned about the impact that this judgment may have upon her reputation, and I therefore make it crystal clear that I do not find that she was cognizant of what Mr. Hussein was up to, the judge said. The NCA is now entitled to an order for possession of the property, he added. I invited the parties to draw up an order which reflect the foregoing, as well as any additional financial remedies to which the NCA may claim to be entitled. If the parties cannot agree on these remedies, I will determine them following further submissions. Finally, the NCA is entitled to its cost. Now, this is the background according to the report of the senator and his wife. Born in Zaria, Kaduna State, Nigeria, Mrs. Katung came to the UK to study at the University of Leeds. She is now the Lady Mayoress of Leeds. She took over the role from A.I. Gatwaite to become the city's 138th Lord Mayor in 2024 and the first person of African descent to hold the position. The councillor is supported by her husband, Sunday Katung, a serving senator and former member of the House of Representatives. Since arriving in Leeds in 2000, the city quickly became my most cherished second home, Mrs. Katung was quoted as saying in 2024. So, if you are looking for a perfect example of corruption in high places, if you are looking for the perfect example of high-profile crimes, then you have the case of Mrs. Abigail Katung, the mayoress of Leeds, and Senator Sunday Katung, a serving senator in Nigeria. What I can say is that if you are the type that support corruption, if you are the type that encourage politicians, if you are the type that don't like accountability, continue. Where, as much as the Nigeria exists, there will be more than enough for politicians to steal, but it is Nigeria, it is Nigerians that will be getting impoverished. So the earlier we curb corruption, the better for all of us. It's been an interesting time with you. Subscribe, turn on your notification button, catch up with my past video. See you in my next video. I love you all sincerely.